First of all, thank you so much for staying this long. It's been a long day, a long, beautiful, wonderful day where we have just heard so much and we have engaged in these really, really rich conversations about the work that you are all doing to serve newcomers in California. So I wanted to first extend gratitude to the Public Health Institute. Thank you so much. Please, let's give him a round of applause. Thank you for envisioning, organizing, coordinating. This is hard work. We are hard to coordinate. It's amazing. But yet you made it happen. And we're so grateful. Also extending gratitude to the University of California at San Diego, who also was just a fantastic partner in helping bring this effort to fruition. As I mentioned before, this is a very rich space. And I hope to speak into existence the is and will continue to be, right? Maybe. A very, very rich space. You brought us together to inform and connect. And the collective knowledge in this room is so palpable. It's so powerful. And we can't end really without hearing some reflections. And so this is why we have our panelists who they will be introducing themselves shortly. I have some very simple prompts, simple questions, and we will move forward with some reflections. Ready, panel? All right, here we go. So everyone in this room is welcoming newcomers into community, and they're doing the work, they're doing so in community. So reflecting back at what you heard today, let's start with Dr. Hasrat Sai. What is your overall reflection of this event? Did you notice any themes or anything that really spoke to you?
Okay, sorry. Yeah, thank you, Magdalia, for the question. And yeah, so the first thing is how much positive vibe and energy was in this room, and how much happy we were all, right? It seems like we want to meet more, and we want to talk more, and we want to share more, and we want to learn from each other. This is a joint effort, joint journey for all of us. So that was kind of the first takeaway I had. And the second is that the issue of refugees, be it a child or a youth or a family, we just heard from students, it doesn't have one aspect. It is like a multi-part, multi-layer, and we cannot address it only by one thing and one intervention. So I think we always have to, whatever we do, like step back and say like, is it enough? And who else I need to talk? And who else I need to bring? And I think that those are the two most like overarching and larger issues I would highlight. But happy to talk more in the follow-up questions.
Thank you. Gulshan, your reflections.
All right, so first of all, I just want to thank PHI, Dr. Siddiq and his team for today. I think it was very, very helpful, very useful, wonderful conference because of Two things that I'm going to mention. Number one, the diversity, right? And the inclusivity, the transparency of it all. To see so many individuals from different ethnic groups, different professionals, clients, and so forth, to be able to give back, because that's what in my professional experience works, is that lived experience, that professional experience from the community. So thank you so much for holding this conference, and hopefully there'll be more like this. And second, in terms of just the overall, the equitable aspect of it, I just mentioned to Migdalia a little bit ago about in my 20 plus years of running, being in mental health, running a nonprofit, when you're looking for funding, the way the funding is given, I've seen it first in Office of Health Equity with the California Reducing Disparities, and trying to give funding to communities who are the experts. And then that makes a huge difference. And now I've seen it with the CDSS in an even more improved way. I remember with RC1, when I saw Valerie inviting us in Sacramento to say, hey, you guys are the group, the community members, to be able to give input. How can you do this? Do you have expertise? And then CDSS and San Diego's continuing to do this with CARE and now PHI. And so it's very commendable to be able to give funding and do business differently at a state level and local level, I'd say. And now we're seeing the results of it. So those would be my two main reflections, and in addition to everything else that's been going really well. Thank you.
Thank you, Gulshan. Michelle, your reflections, please.
Good afternoon. The first thing I want to say is, as an educator, I'm Michelle Estel, and I'm the Director of English Learner Programs for Grossmont Union High School District, high school-only district in East County, San Diego. And I think it becomes very overwhelming when we realize that we're not just talking about numbers, we're talking about students. In my case, we're talking about students who are coming to our office, who are dealing with all of the, like I was at lunch, we were talking about it, they're dealing with all of the trauma, good, bad, and different, of moving to a new country. But then also we're talking about adolescents with, a need for additional development of their executive functioning, and dealing with all of those pieces. And so it was very overwhelming this morning for me to come and see all of the things that I still need to do because I'm just not doing it well enough, if you will. And I apologize, I don't remember which speaker this morning said, you're here, just take one thing. And that really encouraged my heart, just to say, okay, what's the next best thing I can do? I'm gonna take, of all the things, because then you hear all this stuff and I'm already feeling overwhelmed. I'm like, oh man, I got 17 more other things to do to my plate. But just to really try to figure out one thing that I can do better now, or implement now. And so I think that was really helpful, and I appreciated the hope for that. I would say that the second thing that I really appreciated is the space to kind of innovate. As an educator, I get stuck in my box, and sometimes when I'm feeling stuck and I'm feeling a lot of pressure, I double down on my tendency to not innovate, right? Because I want to be, it's just really hard. It's just really hard. And so it was really a nice opportunity to be in a room with people who were not just like me and hear all the things that they were doing, and then try to innovate and see, oh, how could we do that within the parameters that I have to follow as an educator and as a school district, but how could we partner together, and where do I find that in my area? Because I know that there are people out there doing that work. How do I do that? So really the opportunity to innovate is really a nice opportunity. I also didn't check my work email. So all I did was listen and try to take notes and try to be really engaged to try to figure out what is really my next best step in helping support the students and the families that we have the privilege to serve.
Thank you, thank you. And earlier today, Melange Matthews said, and I wrote this because I thought it was such a great anecdote. She said, listening is a superpower. Listening is a superpower. Reba, what are your reflections on everything that you've heard today?
I'm Reba Meggs, and I'm with UC San Diego Center for Community Health, Refugee Health Unit, and very grateful to be here today. And that's actually one of the things that I wanted to bring up as a theme was gratitude. In the rooms that I went to and the sessions that I heard and the people that I met, there's so much gratitude just being here today in this space. So many people are thankful for the services that are being provided, for the partnerships that they're establishing, for the stories that they're hearing from the families. So that really resonated with me. I feel grateful to be here today and honored. And so that theme throughout the room and from everyone was just eminent today. So gratefulness, I know that we all feel that in doing this work. And sometimes you forget when you're not in the community, for somebody like me who's behind the scenes and doing the paperwork, what that really looks like. And so today, thank you for that, because just seeing the pictures and the families and all of that just really brought goosebumps. 2, partnerships. That was very eminent today as well. The amount of work it takes to serve our families and the resources. You can't do that alone. And so just to see all the partners and the people working and the side conversations and the buzz in the room, it was very inspiring for me. And so the network, I just want to encourage us all to strengthen this network as we move forward, because the families are the ones that benefit the most.
Thank you, Reba. And earlier today, we also talked about the importance of celebrating the wins. And this is a win, and I hope that you were able to disconnect from the messages, from the text, just a little bit, right? Just enough, so that you can enjoy the fruits of your labor, enjoy the investment that you have made, and enjoy all the other people that are here, and enjoy being in a place where you can connect and grow your network, right? All for the purpose of welcoming newcomers. So thank you so much for reflecting on gratitude. And now I'm gonna ask Carolina. Carolina, what were your reflections from everything you've heard today?
So +1 to everything that has been said. But I think one thing I'm taking with me today, it's like how schools are at the center of communities, but also how they are safety islands for refugee children. Thank you, Dr. Siddiq, for pointing that out also. And from the fact that, yes, the superpower, that energy that's in this room, how everybody here is an agent of change, an agent of belonging. So that's one of the other 2 powerful reflections I take with me. Thank you.
Thank you. Earlier today, we heard from you, Dr. Siddiq, about the impacts of trauma on the development, right? Cognitive, social, emotional development of children, which eventually, if not addressed right, come with us and continue to layer as we grow into adulthood. Dr. Siddiq, can you tell us a little bit more about the layering of toxic stress and how these programs play a role in mitigating the impact?
Yeah, thank you. The hardships, they can be tough, right? They can be really, really tough, and especially for younger children who actually do not know what is going on, right? The adults know that, hey, this is a conflict, I'm in an airport, I'm gonna end up in the US, and I'm gonna be safe. But the child doesn't comprehend that, doesn't understand that, and only knows that this is a life and death situation. And that child may be never going back to Afghanistan, maybe, but that experience with the child stays for the rest of his life. And the reason is that, you know, that's our evolutionary, how humans body works, our biology, our physiology, that is part of our coping and defense mechanism, not to expose us to the same risk again. So we try to avoid that. So for younger children, it is much different because it changes the way their brain works. Imagine if we keep our car temperature at very high level all the time, right? It's always hot. It doesn't matter, it's spring, it's summer, it is winter. For younger children, they keep that temperature very high, even they are in the US, even if they are safe, even if they're at school. So for them, this is always, I'm not sure if I mentioned in my presentation that when you talk to them, they are like a deer which is facing a headlight. So they are non-responsive, they look at you, they may not even respond to you, and that's why it's really tough on younger children, and it requires that safety, compassion, understanding, and recognition and love. And but I don't want to keep going on this topic, but I want to end by saying one thing, that there is a fine line between traumatization or stigmatization and helping someone. So if we keep saying that trauma, and this person is not good enough, then we've further stigmatized the person. But trauma is not always bad. So trauma does happen, but sometimes that child who has been in Kabul International Airport traumatized maybe grew up and be the fiercest and the strongest peace advocate. So he can become the best person, but at the same time, that person needs love, support, and respect of this community. So very complex topic, it's much tougher on them, but with our support, they can be the best of us.
Thank you. Thank you. So speaking of supports, right, and how do we help people perhaps overcome or sometimes even address their mental health challenges? How do we help people heal? So I'm going to ask Michelle and Gulshan to speak on that a bit, right? How does a community-based organization, an ethnic community-based organization, and a local education agency help children and youth heal?
Yeah, so earlier I forgot to introduce myself. So Gulshan Yousafzai with Mass Social Services Foundation. We focus on the wellness and mental health of the Muslim community in Sacramento. I'm going to piggyback off of what Dr. Sadiq said. We have a lot of conversations throughout the years about how we complement each other's work a lot, and I think the example he gave really, and I'm going to add to that to answer what Migdal is asking. So the short of it is comfort, right? Comfort. But how do you do that? Comfort and trust. What we have is an evidence-based practice called peer support at MassSF we've developed since 2016. And it has shown us that it has the ability, I mean, I know it's been researched, through research it shows it works, but in actual clients and refugees, especially the Afghan clients, we are seeing that it really does work. And I'll give an example of that. So we had a child actually come in, as Dr. Sadiq was alluding to. He was taken from the Kabul airport at 13 and put on the airplane. His parents were not allowed. He lived here for 3 years and was moved from one support foster system to another home, and finally 3 years later his family came. this child, or now and then a teenager now, was extremely traumatized, extremely in a lot of pain. You don't have to even talk to him, you could just see it in his face. But what we did with our peer support practice is we started talking, and who talked to him were trained professionals that were peer supporters that were similar to him, so a youth, someone who spoke his language, who could connect with him. And through the different sessions, we were able to have him open up. But before that, we do an intake process where we do use a refugee health screener to ask all the questions, and none of those things do we ask, do you have a mental health problem? To see where is the severity of this person's mental health issue. And through that, through the different sessions, we were able to not only create comfort because of the individual that was helping was a peer supporter that was Afghan, but also create trust and then continuously have sessions to be able to have this person vent, whether it was, and then we had a different session with his family because his family was so affected as well. And through that, it has helped them actually not only have hope, but live every day with the idea that, okay, this can work in the United States. And so in terms of how we help refugees, it's just first starting out with having a strategy, a practice that first and foremost makes them feel comfortable so they can open up, but then really going into those sessions and talking about what's going on there and continuing, keeping in mind that their language, the gender in terms of if it's a male or female youth, whoever they need is there, and they're able to have the ability to continue to have those sessions. And so we managed to do that with our programs. In the last year, we've helped over 2,500 people because of that. And so it's and also what I've noticed in the last year, which is sad but also good news if you're a mental health person, is the reduction in stigma, meaning that first they were coming for just things that were about just resettling, right? Rent, apartment, this and that. We are now getting every month ranging from, I think the lowest is 30, but the highest we had about 63. In terms of very serious issues, mental health issues now. And so the idea that they're actually feeling comfortable to come and talk about domestic violence, about not being able to sleep, depression. And so it's after so many years, we're seeing a reduction in stigma. So on one end, it's sad, but we all knew that that's there, right, when you come from a war-torn country. But on the other end, it gives me goosebumps every time I say that they're giving themselves permission. And how hard is that when you come from a community where you're not supposed to go outside of your family because of the shame, whether you're male or female, and what it does to you. So it's building trust and creating comfort.
Thank you, thank you. So from the perspective of a local education agency, the school, right, that trusted hub in the community, how do you bring healing to the children and families you serve?
So one of the things that we try to, at our school district, is really work on trauma-informed practices in our classrooms, just understanding and realizing that students are coming to us. Maybe some of them are refugees, maybe some of them are not, but still trying to have this standard practice of instruction for our students. I think one of the things sometimes we forget that school is a very communal thing, and we get stuck on the education piece, but we know that students are not learning if they're not feeling safe. If their affective filters are super high, then they're still just like Maslow's hierarchy of need, like they're really just needing to feel that certainty and that comfort. And one of the ways the schools can do that, aside from offering some additional supports in mental health and certainly referring out, but teachers are the ones who are seeing the students every day. And so just by simply having routines, right? One of the things that we do with professional learning around how to educate newcomers, English learners, students who are new to our educational system is just reminding teachers, like, the angst is when I don't know what's happening. So if you can set up a routine in your classroom where the student comes in and they don't have to worry about knowing what is the next step, that they can actually concentrate on the learning part, is really, really important for the student. But then also it's very helpful for the family because then that routine can get translated to whoever is the caregiver at home, helping them understand the expectation of the student from the teacher's perspective. But also just sports, right? Like lunchtime and passing period and before school and after school activities that are not academically based, but are, we bought a ton of soccer balls just so that kids could have a soccer ball because it's not something that our high schoolers, American high schoolers are used to doing. You'd be surprised at some of our high schoolers, at some of our high schools that are attending in our district, we bought some soccer balls and everyone came out to play. So part of it is also the stigma of teenagers don't do that, but you just have to open up the doors. And that was the best English acquisition that those students could have because they're engaging with their peers, they're speaking in English, they're feeling welcome, they're feeling like they're part of something. They're not just isolated because they don't speak English yet. So I think all of those pieces are really important, and we sometimes forget school's not just about that. We're not just teaching them about the content, but we're teaching them about how to be a community with one another.
Thank you. So we talked a little bit about the science, right? The impact on the growing brain. We talked about what does it look like to foster and support mental health as a community-based organization and as a local education agency, right, as in the school, at the point of service. How do you do that? Can we, with Reba and Carolina, can we maybe step into a macro level? And Reba, would you please share your thoughts around fostering mental health, fostering healing at a community level? And Carolina, after Reba, maybe how do we foster health as a system of care?
So just thinking about today, when I was thinking about gratitude, I think this is a good example of creating community in a place. And somebody mentioned safe place. And you also mentioned something about peer-to-peer education. And you mentioned something about recreational, just kind of outside. And so when I think about one of the things I've learned in this program and with the organizations that we've worked with around mental health, and community is, and it's not surprising that there is a stigma around it. And how do you break that stigma? And the examples today have given around peer and these recreational, and what we saw were so successful was bringing community together where we knew there were mental health issues that you've talked about earlier, but not shaming or stigmatizing. So not even addressing mental health. It was almost like a stealth move, right? And you're doing it and bringing, when we co-designed our program, we're like, oh, we're gonna have individual sessions in the community and go meet with people one-on-one and talk to them. And Goshenons, that doesn't work. And so when you think about community and mental health, it's really bringing groups of people and making people feel that they're not alone in this. Because then that's when you start to feel that you can open up and that someone else will understand you, and then you build that trust. And so I really have learned that this sense of mental health and addressing it within a community is really bringing people together in community. And just that alone and being together in that space is a positive impact on their mental health. And not even having to address mental health as the issue itself, but just creating a space where they can come together and be with their peers, whether it's doing a recreational thing or just learning from a peer themselves. And so when I think about mental health and how we really infuse that and support it in a community without it being stigmatized, is really creating space where community can come together.
Thank you, Reba. Thank you. Just thinking too about it's not just creating the space, but then also there was a co-creation. That's how you knew what the space was going to look like, right? Where was it going to be? Who was going to lead it? Because there was some co-creation involved. Thank you. Thank you. Carolina.
Thank you. So trying to take it to a macro level, thinking, like I took quick notes while Riva was speaking too, but remembering how we're all connected, and like you spoke about, this network of care, this concept that at the Office of Women and Youth, like it's been a guiding star for us on how are we encouraging and fostering communication, connections between our different providers, our different agents of change, as we've been called. So doing that in a meaningful way, but then also doing a lot of listening, and doing meaningful community engagement in which there's nothing about us without us. So where we have, in our case, like youth voices, parent voices, like how do we bring those into the room as well? Like it was so powerful to listen to all the students today, and thank you, and sorry for all the deficiencies that we still have to work with, but also very inspiring to hear. So lifting those voices, without burdening them. So making sure, like when I talk about meaningful engagement, like how do we, are there incentives that we can provide to families, to students to be in these rooms, like to talk to us, to like be part of the design process as well. So that the systems are really created in response to their needs and not the ones of the administrators necessarily. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Earlier today, in the very beginning, there was this powerful statement made, and that is that it is equity that moves us forward. So I know I probably have some folks looking at me like they're gonna play the wrap it up music. So let's do this quickly. In one word, what is one word? How would you describe equity? Like, what's one word that comes to mind when you think about equity? Just one word.
That was the most difficult question. I mean, the biggest issue of our today's world, in many ways, and health, that is inequality, and economy, that's inequality, and representation, that's inequality. So the biggest challenge of our country, I believe, is inequality right now.
Thank you. Gulshan.
So since Dr. Sadiq didn't say one word, I'm also going to not say one word. I'm too tired. And what I've also, if I may just very quickly, what I've been thinking the whole time is prevention. As an Afghan who's gone through this as a kid and so forth, I have a huge fear that what the Afghans went through in the first wave, second wave, and now it is going to be so much worse because of the way the world has turned and social media and so forth. So, I mean, we have prevention events where we have 500 to 900 people come in, and it's because of community. We do things to bring them as a community, as Reba said. So prevention, I think, is the key, or possibly the one word.
Thank you.
I'm a teacher, so I'll follow the prompt. And I'm an English teacher, so I'll use a hyphenated word, self-efficacy.
I was going to say one word, but it didn't work, so I'm going to hold on to that one. I'm actually thinking about something that Dr. Sadiq, I'm going to say redistribution.
And for me, what comes to mind is awareness.
Wow, thank you. Thank you all for sharing of your time, sharing of your talent, and just taking the time to really think about all the answers, right, to these provocative questions. Would love to continue these spaces, continue coming together in community with all of you. I'm so appreciative, and once again, thank you for welcoming our newcomers into the community and doing so in community. I will now transition to Marta.